You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back into Locked On Bama. Luke Robinson, that's me. Jimmy Stein, that's him. Jimmy, how are you today?
I am doing just fine. I'm basking in the glow of a huge win over the Stark Vegas Bulldogs.
Yes, that was very nice. Certainly, really, it was almost the same as our season. Just every game is like a roller coaster game with this crowd, right? I mean, it seemed like for all the world we had control, and then we don't have control anymore. And it's just the way it goes with this squad.
Yeah, they're very consistent with their inconsistency. But here's a great example of what that means. We average 80 points a game, which is a good number. That ranks pretty high nationally. I think it's second or third in the SEC. I mean, so we score points impressively, and points are big. That's how you determine who wins and loses the games. Well, last night we scored 80. We hit right at our average, and that's good. That means we played well offensively. We scored more points than most normal teams score in a 40-minute game, and we hit our average, which is good. So we played good. Well, Keon Ellis didn't score at all. Noah Gurley scored, I think, 2 points. If you told me before the game that Keon didn't score, that Gurley scored 2 points, I would be like, there's no way we won the game because we probably only scored in the 60s. But we didn't. We scored 80. So I think it's just a good example of, there's always a lot to complain about. There's always a lot that's sort of alarming. There's always a lot that's like, how the hell is this going to work? Yet we are now, 17-9 against the toughest schedule in the entire country. And I assure you people, normally, whoever has played the number one schedule, whoever the hell that is, they're normally not 17-9. They're normally way worse than that. So with every reason to complain, there's also a reason to be amazed at how good this team is.
Yeah, again, I think this arguably is the toughest basketball schedule anybody's ever played. If somebody can show me a tougher schedule, I'd like to know it. But it's hopefully it pays dividends. But I want to go back to something you said a minute ago. First of all, Keon Ellis, there's something wrong. There's something wrong. He's his shot's just not even pretty. And last night he had some bad fouls. He was 0 of 7 from the field. He just doesn't look like himself. He's got that lack of confidence that has been bothering Javon Quinterly for a lot of the season, it seems like. I don't know what it is, but, man, we need him to step up.
Yep. And I would even say, now I don't know this, but I would guess from what I've seen, I don't even think he's played as well defensively as they thought going into the season. It was thought that he would be replacing Herb on both ends of the floor and that he would be our shutdown defender, a candidate to be SEC Defensive Player of the Year. I don't think he's close. I'm not even sure he's the best defensive player on our team. Now, he's a quality defender, even as we speak right now, and I'm criticizing him. He's a quality defender. There was just a thought that he would be the best defender in the SEC. It's just not true.
I mean, it's really not even close, frankly. That plum is going to go to Walker Kessler. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And it probably should. But Keon Ellis, he is a shell of himself right now. And it's a shame to see. But instead of harping on the negative, I want to bring up a positive that is really been kind of fun. It's so weird. Again, this is a microcosm of the season. Darius Miles, who gets suspended for a game, against Ole Miss, then, or maybe there was the game before that, I can't remember. Then he comes in this game, has a fantastic game, really just is a spark plug for us, and he's having the most fun of anybody out there. He's dancing with Big Al. He's doing cheers. He's getting funky. And he's just having a good time. And it's weird because there's a guy who just a few games ago was suspended. And we're like, what the hell's wrong with this kid? And now he's out there and he's, doing the Cupid shuffle. It's wild.
I bet, without knowing, because I don't know this, I bet he drives Nate Oates crazy.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about that. I thought you were going to keep going. I had my mic on mute.
Oh,
sorry about that, everybody.
No, I mean, I didn't have much to add to that. I'll just say that I think, Nate is a pretty intense, serious guy. I mean, I'm sure Nate laughs at jokes and likes a sitcom here and there. I'm just saying Nate kind of strikes me as a serious guy. Darius Miles, and I mean this in a positive way, he's a clown. And by that, I mean, Darius is probably one of the guys that when you go to a funeral and he's sad and he's not disruptive, but he's also going to be a guy that whispers a joke to his friend at a funeral. I mean, I think that's who he is. I think he's always laughing, always joking, always having fun because that's his personality. And I can see that maybe not jiving with a very serious-minded Nate Oates.
I think that's a good point. Like, I can see Darius Miles at a funeral and everybody's real quiet and he goes, well, at least you finally put a suit on, for the guy laying in the casket, something like that.
Good
all
one.
right, Jimmy, let me go ahead and tell everybody about Bet Online. Football might be over for this season, but basketball is in full steam for both pro and college hoops. From all the latest odds, totals, player performance, props, to where the next fired coach is going to land, betonline.net is the number one spot for all your sports betting needs. BetOnline remains the best spot for all of your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. It's not just basketball. BetOnline for hockey, boxing, UFC odds, right up to the Olympic coverage and information. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right. So let's talk about this game just a little bit more. Looking at the box score here, Alabama had done a pretty good job on Iverson Molinar for a little bit, and then he caught fire, ended up with 22 points. You were dead on about Gurley. Only 2 points, only 1 rebound. And look, I'm going to spin this in a positive, probably in a homerific fashion, that we needed Gurley in the previous game against Arkansas, and he came up big late. In this game, he wasn't on his game, so somebody else stepped up. And I'll tell you who stepped up. Charles Bediako, 27 big minutes, 6 of 7 from the field. Probably all of them were dunks. He was only 3 of 7 from the line. Got to clean that up a little bit. 5 rebounds. Would like to see a few more rebounds, but 6 big blocks. He's coming into his own as a shot blocker. He's still got a lot of weight to put on. There's no doubt about it. He also, I was glad to see this. He did the interview with Chris Stewart after the game with a radio broadcast. And what I like about that is it tells me he's maturing. You got to get in there and be a part of the team that way too. It's not just always seniors that get to do that. But I think when you give a freshman an opportunity like that and he handles it well, and his interview was good, I think it's a sign of maturity. So I think he's growing up right before our eyes.
That's exactly, and I told somebody that last night. Even 3 weeks ago, I think I said privately, I don't think I said on the show, but I think 3 weeks ago, I was like, I'm a little concerned that Bediako isn't hugely improved from November. And I said that about 3 weeks ago. And literally, as the words came out of my mouth, the next game, he almost looked like a different player. And since then, he's continued to improve. I think now we can comfortably say we have seen him develop. We've seen him develop from, a guy that was having trouble adjusting to the speed and the size of this new game for him. And now he's swimming. He's swimming. He's taking I guess what I'm saying, he's taking the floaties off. I mean, he's swimming in the deep end and is now a guy like J.D. Davison who has done the same thing. Now with J.D., it's been more of a roller coaster. He showed up ready to help us win and then disappeared. And then the turnovers were just ridiculous. And then all of a sudden he played the Gonzaga game. And with JD, it's been up and down and up and down. Now I think JD has found some level of consistency to his production. And here's the thing, while they're learning to play basketball, we're also trying to win big games. And we're trying to accomplish something here as a team. And I feel both of them now are helping us win the games. See, that's the step you need. The step you need is, okay, we need you to learn to play at this level, and then we need you to help us beat these teams that we have to play. And I think JD and Bediako both have reached that point. They're helping us beat these good teams. And that's the step we needed. That isn't to say that it's complete, because I think a last step with those two can be dominating the teams that we need to beat. The question with both is going to be, when they're good enough to dominate the teams we need to beat, are they going to be playing for Alabama or in the NBA?
Yeah, I still feel like Bediako will be coming back. I've combed through NBA mock drafts over and over again. I mean, I look them up almost daily, and I hadn't seen Bediako in any of them. No, not a one. J.D. Davison has been on a slow decline. He's in just about everybody's second round projections now, if he's in it at all. So I think there's also an opportunity for JD to come back. I mean, of course, there's an opportunity. I think there's also a chance JD will come back. And that would be pretty magnificent to have Bediako, who, borderline 5-star, JD 5-star, 2 5-stars coming in, and some high 4-stars coming in along with Nick Pringle. Shoot, all of a sudden we got a team, especially if Shaq comes back. I mean, if Shaq were to come back, that'd be like getting a one and done 5-star committing to your team. So, next year looks to be very, very promising if some of those things happen. But, here's the catch-22. If Bediako really starts making a big move, and I think it'd have to be a huge move to draft. And if JD starts really turning it on, which, he didn't have his best game last night, but he had 10 rebounds. He led the league. He led the team in rebounds.
He helped us win the game. He helped us win the game.
Definitely. And there are times when he goes to the rim and I'm like, just do that all the time. Like, nobody stops you. But if he really picks it up, and those are the things we need to really make a run in the SEC tournament, and NCAAs. But if those things happen, there's the likelihood they'll be gone. So, I mean, it's a bit of a catch-22. Jimmy, let's go ahead and take another break. This will be a quick episode today. We won't even get into some of our recruiting superlatives like we've been doing. We'll save that for tomorrow or the next day. And we're just going to keep it focused on basketball for right now. So we'll be back in just a second. I want to go back to Keon Ellis, Jimmy. I mentioned he was 0 of 7. He's actually 0 of 8. He was 0 of 7 from beyond the arc. Here's the other thing. Jaden Shackelford was 0 of 6 from beyond the arc. I wonder when the last time Shackelford didn't make a 3 was. I mean, maybe it's happened this year.
Kentucky.
He didn't? Oh, good point. He didn't make one against Kentucky, are we sure?
I just know he had 6 points. Maybe there were 2 threes. I don't remember, but I know all he had was 6 points against Kentucky. And I don't recall a 3, but maybe that happened. But you're right. That's not going to happen too much at all. And again, it's just a good example of that's how good this team is. And I know it's not in vogue to compliment this team for whatever reason. Look, beating Mississippi State's a good win. We didn't play that great, and we still won. And I don't know how many times we've said that this year. We didn't play great, but we still won. That just shows how good the team is. It shows what we're capable of, and it shows why we were able to beat multiple number 1 seeds, because when it goes well, we'll beat anybody. It just doesn't go well every single night, but we still win most of the games.
Yeah, you were right. He was 0 of 7 against Kentucky from beyond the arc. I mean, wow. Okay, so that was something that I shouldn't have been so terribly surprised about. We've shot like 20% from beyond the arc at home in this homestand. I mean, something terrible. I mean, eventually they're going to start falling, right? I mean, I think partially we have the wrong people shooting them sometimes. I thought Javon Quinterly did a good job last night. I'll tell you something else about Javon Quinterly. He hit a couple of big free throws last night. We needed him to come through, and he did. We've been talking about, hey, we need you to be able to hit those key shots when you need to, and he did. So kudos to him for doing that. James Rojas, wow, he certainly had better games. He looked bad last night to me. And I feel like he gets out of sorts. Like when he knows his role, Rojas is good. I mean, he's good for his role. But when he gets sort of out of sorts, he tried to put on a move on a Mississippi State dude last night where he like spun in the lane. It was blocked before he shot it. I've never seen that before. Like there was a preemptive block. I was also glad. Look, I know the officiating got a lot of ribbing last night, and it should. The officiating in college basketball has been very bad. Jay Billis wrote an article on ESPN about how bad officiating has gotten. Like they're not calling enough fouls. Frankly, everybody loves to bitch about the fouls, but they're not calling enough. Everything's too physical now. I think that's one key. And the other thing I would add to Jay Billis's discussed with officiating right now is the propensity to call charge versus block. Charge, to me, the spirit of a charge is a player's out of control and he runs somebody over. It's not just, can I get under him while he's in the air? I think that's BS. And last night there was a Alabama completed a 3-point play. I can't remember who it was. It may have been Shaq. He hit a floater in the lane, and the Mississippi State guy went under him, and I said, they're going to call a charge. And lo and behold, they did call a block, and that was the right call. And considering that they had a really bad charge block call against J.D. Davidson against Arkansas that kind of turned the game around for a second and really could have cost us. I'm glad to see that. But I've always been officials just love to call charges for some reason. And
I'll get on a soapbox here because I've been busting to say this. I'm glad you brought it up because I get mad about it. It's such a, you're 100% right. You and Jay Billis both, of course, and Billis is a great an expert on the game as anyone is in the sport. Look, I have seen charges called this year in Alabama games and other games. If you are in a fast break, running side by side with the defender down the court for 40 feet at full speed, just how in the, I wanted to use a really dirty word there. I'll use hell, but I wanted to use something else. How the hell are you running full speed down the court and the defender gets in front of you and sets his feet? That's physically impossible to do, to run full speed and set your feet when you're running side by side with the guy for 40 feet. It's impossible to do that. And I have seen multiple charges called in that scenario when it has defied the laws of physics. Now, why charges ever called there is outrageous. Secondly, when they don't call charges enough is in the half court when a defender is closely guarding the offensive player and the offensive player uses his shoulder to create the room that the defender has a right to be in, that is a charge. And that isn't called enough or nearly enough because that's great defense. That's appropriate position, a right to be there, and the offensive player uses brute force to create space. That is a charge every time. I've seen that called a defensive foul multiple times this year when there's been so much contact, you have to call something. Here's what you call a charge. It just seems to me, see, I got so mad my phone's falling. We're lucky I'm not throwing it across the room. We're lucky I'm just not chunking it. But this should just be the default chart, the default call. The default call is when you're in the fast break and there's a lot of contact, that's a blocking foul. When you're in the half court and there's a big collision and the defender had proper position, that's a charge. That should be the default calls. Instead, we see it called the other way.
Well, I went on mute for a minute there, Jimmy. My bad. I didn't know this.
Start your rant over again as soon as mine ended.
Well, what I was going to say was I think you're right. And look, I'm just so tired of it. I think officials have just overextended themselves on charges. And this is not us railing on the officials from last night. That's not
No,
what we're doing.
no.
What Because I thought they were right. And I thought Nate Oates should have been tossed. I thought he was trying to get tossed. So I'm fine with it. That doesn't bother me. Sometimes coaches want to get tossed, and he wanted to get tossed, and it kind of helped. So I'm totally fine with that. But Jay Billis wrote a whole article on it when he did his 1 through 68 teams today. I say a whole article is, about half of the article was on officiating and how they, at first they were calling too many ticky-tack things, and then they wanted to up the offense. So now they've let everything go. They've got arm bars and all this other stuff. And I think we need to clean the game up a little bit. That's all. I mean, everybody's gotten real physical and all that's cool, but I think we do need to clean the game up a little bit, because it is, it's very difficult anymore to watch a game and not be upset with the officiating, because there were plenty of calls last night, against Mississippi State, against Alabama that should have been made that weren't, and where somebody looked like they were clearly hit. And see, when you let that go, I mean, players are like, okay, that's not where the line is. Let me try and move the line a little bit more. Let me find out where it is that we're going to call a foul. And it just gets more and more physical. And I think that takes away from the game, the beauty of the sport. It's not meant to be a brute strength game. It's meant to be a little bit more fluid than that. But got a big game coming up against Kentucky. We'll talk about that on tomorrow's podcast. So, Jimmy, we'll call this one a day. Sorry for the intermittent silence with the muted mics. That's just how we do sometimes. But anyway, thank you guys for listening. Please do share and subscribe, and roll tide, everybody.
Roll Tide.